The ski patrol found her clutching her belly in the snow. 7 months pregnant, buried alive, freezing to death, and the first thing she asked was not about herself. It was about her baby.
Give me your hand.
But here's what makes this story unforgettable. Her husband was not there. He had left her alone at that mountain lodge, abandoned her on their 5th wedding anniversary.
The baby!
And while she was dying in the avalanche, he was 200 miles away, in a hotel room, with his mistress. She should have died that night. She almost did. But someone saved her, a stranger. A man her husband hated more than anyone in the world. A billionaire who would lose 2 fingers pulling her from the snow. What happened next would destroy a marriage, expose a monster, and reveal a love story nobody saw coming.
I will not let this
is the story of betrayal, survival, and the moment one woman stopped making excuses for a man who never deserved her. Stay with me. You will not believe how this ends. The ski patrol found her clutching her belly in the snow.
Perfect.
The first thing she asked was not about herself.
Just like
it was
her
about the
mother.
baby. Is she moving? Can you feel her moving? The man in the orange jacket pressed his hand against her swollen stomach. 7 months pregnant, buried in an avalanche, somehow still alive. She's kicking, he said. Strong kicks. Your baby's a fighter. Colleen Ashford closed her eyes. The relief hit harder than the cold, harder than the fear, harder than anything she had ever felt in her 32 years of life. Stay with us, another voice said. Male, calm, familiar somehow. The helicopter is coming. You're going to be okay. She tried to see his face. The snow was too bright. The world was spinning. She felt hands lifting her, felt warmth spreading through her frozen limbs. The last thing she heard before losing consciousness was that voice again. Steady, certain. I've got you. Both of you. I've got you. 12 hours earlier, everything had been different. Colleen stood at the window of their suite at the Ridgecrest Mountain Lodge. The snow fell in thick curtains outside. Beautiful, peaceful, the kind of winter wonderland she had dreamed about since childhood. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby shifted, stretched, made herself known. Happy anniversary to us, Colleen whispered. 5 years, can you believe it? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She walked over slowly. Her feet had started swelling in the past week. The doctor said it was normal. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. The text was from Garrett. Emergency with the Sinclair deal. Have to fly back. Driver will pick you up tomorrow morning. Order room service. Love you. She read it twice, 3 times, 4 times. The words did not change. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard. She started typing. It's our anniversary trip. She deleted it. The roads might close. She deleted that too. Please don't leave me here alone. Delete, delete, delete. Finally, she typed 2 words. Okay, be safe. She pressed send. Then she did what she always did when anxiety crept in. She checked her phone again. Lock, unlock, lock. Stared at the message. Lock, unlock, lock. Nothing changed. The message was still there. Her husband was still gone. She called him. Straight to voicemail, his professional voice, cool and detached. You've reached Garrett Ashford. Leave a message. She hung up without speaking. Called again. Same result. The suite suddenly felt enormous. 3 rooms, a fireplace, a jacuzzi tub she had been excited to use. All of it empty now, all of it wrong. She made her way to the lobby. The lodge was beautiful. Rustic elegance. Stone walls and exposed beams. The kind of place that cost a fortune per night. The manager noticed her immediately. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair. Her name tag read Ruth. Mrs. Ashford, is everything all right? My husband had a work emergency. He had to leave. Ruth's face flickered. Something crossed her expression. Something Colleen could not quite read. In this weather, the passes are closing. He took the helicopter. The words sounded hollow. She had ordered champagne, a couple's massage, a private dinner overlooking the mountains. Their 5th anniversary, the trip they had planned for months. Well, Ruth said carefully, if you need anything at all, please let us know. The storm is supposed to worsen overnight. We want all our guests to feel safe and comfortable. Thank you. Colleen walked toward the restaurant. She was not hungry, but the suite felt like a pound cage. At least here there were people, movement, life. The dining room was half empty. Most guests had left before the storm warning, the smart ones. The ones whose husbands did not abandon them for business deals. She found a table by the window, ordered hot tea and soup, tried to convince herself that everything was fine. The waiter brought her tea, young, friendly. He did not know she was Garrett Ashford's wife, did not know her husband was worth $40 million, did not know any of the things that were supposed to matter. Quiet night, he said. Most people cleared out. The weather scared them. Smart. This storm is going to be bad. He paused. You here alone? My husband had to leave. Work emergency. The waiter nodded. Polite, professional. But something in his eyes suggested he had seen this before. Pregnant wives alone in expensive resorts. Husbands with convenient emergencies. There was a big group here yesterday, he said. Some tech conference after party. Pretty wild night. Colleen sipped her tea. Is that so? Yeah, one guy stood out. $5,000 jacket, left with a brunette who was definitely not his wife. He laughed. She kept calling him G, like they were in some kind of movie. Colleen's cup stopped halfway to her lips. G, Garrett's nickname, the one his college friends used, the one that showed up in emails from people who knew him before he was Garrett Ashford, CEO. You okay? The waiter asked. You look pale. Fine, just heartburn. The lie tasted like acid. Pregnancy thing. She finished her tea, left a large tip, made her way back to the suite on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. The room was exactly as she had left it. Empty, cold despite the fire. Garrett's laptop sat on the desk. He had left it behind, said he would use his tablet for whatever work he needed to do. She should not open it, should not violate his privacy, should not become that wife. The suspicious one, the paranoid one, the one who checked her husband's emails because she did not trust him. But the waiter's words echoed in her head. $5,000 jacket, brunette, calling him G. She opened the laptop, password required. She tried their wedding date. Wrong, his mother's birthday. Wrong, his own birthday. Wrong, she sat back, defeated. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe she was being crazy. Pregnancy hormones, abandonment anxiety. Her therapist had warned her about this. Then she tried one more. The date of his first major deal. The day he became a millionaire instead of just another startup founder. The screen unlocked. Her heart pounded as she opened his email. She told herself she was being paranoid, that she would find nothing, that she would close this laptop and never speak of it again. The inbox was carefully organized. Folders for different projects, different clients, different priorities. And one folder labeled B. She opened it. The first email was from 3 days ago, from someone named Brinley Vance, VP of Operations at Ashford Tech. Last night was incredible. Can't wait for the lodge. Should I book my usual room or will you make an excuse to share yours? Colleen's hands began to shake. Garrett's reply was underneath. Colleen's coming this time. We'll have to be careful, but after the baby comes, we'll figure everything out, I promise. The timestamp mocked her. 2 days ago, while she was packing for their anniversary trip, while she was excited about their romantic getaway, while she was planning the future she thought they shared. She scrolled down, more emails, months of them, 18 months of messages between her husband and a woman named Brinley. Intimate messages, planning messages, future messages. And then she found the one that broke her. A forward from Brinley to Garrett. Subject line, room confirmed at the Aspen Grand. Can't wait to celebrate our anniversary. Yes, I know it's technically yours and Colleen's. That makes it better. The screen blurred. Tears or shock or both. She understood now. The anniversary trip was never for her. It was supposed to be for them. Garrett and Brinley. Their celebration, Colleen was not supposed to be here. Her pregnancy complications had forced Garrett to include her at the last minute. She was the inconvenience, the obstacle, the pregnant wife who ruined everything by showing up to her own marriage. She was not crazy. She was not paranoid. She was not hormonal. She was right. She had always been right. And now she was alone, 7 months pregnant, trapped in a mountain lodge with a storm closing in, while her husband celebrated their anniversary with another woman. The validation should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like drowning. I knew something was wrong, she thought. I knew it. I knew it all along. The bathroom floor was cold against her back. Colleen did not remember sitting down, did not remember how long she had been here. The shower ran nearby. She had turned it on at some point. Now the water was cold. Steam had faded from the mirror. The tiles beneath her were hard and unforgiving. She counted them. 63 tiles on the wall. She counted again. Still 63. Something about the number felt important. Solid. Real. The baby kicked. Once. Twice. A reminder. You are not alone, those kicks seemed to say. Even now, even here. You are not alone. Colleen placed both hands on her belly, felt the movement beneath her palms, strong, insistent, alive. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry you have to go through this with me. Another kick, harder this time. She forced herself to stand, turned off the shower, looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back was a stranger, red eyes, pale skin, hair tangled from running her hands through it. This was not the woman who had packed for a romantic anniversary trip. This was someone else entirely. Morning came slowly. The storm had intensified overnight. Avalanche warnings scrolled across the television screen. The lodge was on lockdown. No one in or out. Colleen should have felt trapped. Instead, she felt something unexpected. Clarity. She picked up her phone and called Darcy, her best friend since college. The one person who had never liked Garrett. The one person who might not say, I told you so. Darcy answered on the second ring. Tell me you didn't marry a man who would abandon his pregnant wife on their anniversary. I can't tell you that. Silence stretched across the phone line. Then Darcy's voice, softer now. Oh, honey, what happened? Colleen told her everything. The text message, the waiter's story, the emails, Brinley, the anniversary trip that was never meant to be hers. Darcy listened without interrupting. When Colleen finished, she heard her friend take a deep breath. I'm booking a flight. Where exactly are you? Don't. The airports are closed. The roads are closed. I'm stuck here. A bitter laugh escaped her throat. We're all stuck here. Me and Garrett's secrets in this storm that won't stop. What are you going to do? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Do you want to save the marriage? The question hung in the air. A week ago, Colleen would have said yes without hesitation. 5 years, a baby on the way, a life they had built together. But that life was a lie. Every foundation was cracked. Every memory was tainted. I don't think there's a marriage left to save, she said finally. I think there's just a performance. And I'm tired of being the only one who didn't know the script. After hanging up with Darcy, Colleen forced herself to eat. The baby needed nutrition. Whatever happened next, her daughter needed her mother to be strong. She went to the dining room, the same table by the window, the same view of mountains that suddenly seemed less beautiful. The room was nearly empty, just a handful of guests who had been caught by the storm. And then she saw him, Weston Caldwell, sitting alone at a corner table, a book in his hands, a cup of coffee growing cold beside him. She recognized him immediately. Garrett's biggest rival, the man her husband had ranted about for 3 years, the man who had supposedly stolen the Sinclair deal through underhanded tactics, the man Garrett called ruthless, unethical, and dangerous. Worth $3 billion to Garrett's $40 million, a gap that infuriated her husband more than any moral failing. Their eyes met across the room. He nodded politely, a simple acknowledgement between strangers trapped in the same storm. She looked away quickly, but not before noticing something strange. The book in his hands. She could see the cover clearly. Expecting Better, a data-driven guide to pregnancy. The cover was worn. Sticky notes protruded from the pages. Someone had studied this book carefully, marked important passages, returned to it again and again and again. Why would a single man be reading a pregnancy book? Colleen finished her breakfast without tasting it. Her mind kept returning to that image. Weston Caldwell, Garrett's nemesis, reading about pregnancy with the focus of a scholar. Something did not add up. Another mystery in a weekend full of them. She returned to the suite, opened Garrett's laptop again, this time with purpose instead of panic. She searched for Weston Caldwell in Garrett's emails, found dozens of results. Most were business-related, competition for contracts, lost deals, angry rants to his board about Caldwell's unfair advantages. But one email thread caught her attention, from 18 months ago, right around the time Garrett started seeing Brindley. The subject line, Caldwell's situation handled. She opened it. Garrett had written to his lawyer. The story is out. Catherine Caldwell's mental health history is all over the press. Weston is distracted. The Davidson contract is ours. Catherine Caldwell, Weston's wife. Colleen vaguely remembered hearing about her. A tragedy of some kind. She had not paid attention at the time. Garrett had dismissed it as karma for his rival's sins. She searched for more. Found news articles, blog posts, social media threads. The story emerged slowly, painfully. Catherine Caldwell had been pregnant, 7 months pregnant, just like Colleen was now. She had struggled with postpartum depression after a previous pregnancy, something she had kept private, something that should have remained private. But someone had leaked her medical records to the press, framed her struggles as instability, implied that Weston Caldwell's wife was mentally unfit, that he was hiding her condition from investors and partners. The stress had triggered early labor. The baby survived, a little girl. Catherine did not. Colleen closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking again. Garrett had not just competed with Weston Caldwell, he had destroyed him, killed his wife through cruelty and exposure, used her private pain as a weapon. And Colleen had been married to him through all of it, had benefited from his success, had slept beside him every night without knowing what he was capable of. What else don't I know, she thought. What else has he done? Her phone rang, Garrett's name on the screen. She stared at it for a long moment, watching his contact photo flash, the picture from their wedding day, both of them smiling, both of them lying. She answered, "Honey." His voice was warm, concerned, the voice of a loving husband worried about his pregnant wife. "I'm so sorry about leaving. The deal fell through completely. I'm trying to get back, but the weather is impossible." "Where are you, Garrett?" A pause, brief, but noticeable. "Denver, stuck at the airport. Everything is grounded." "The Denver airport is closed." Another pause, longer this time. "The private terminal is still operating for—" "Stop." Her voice was calm, dead calm, the kind of calm that comes when all the fear has burned away and left only certainty behind. "I know about Brindley. I know about the emails. I know about the huddle room in Aspen. I know everything." Silence on the other end. She could hear him breathing, could almost hear him calculating, searching for the right lie, the right spin. "Colleen, whatever you think you know, I read your emails, all of them. I know this trip was supposed to be for her. I know you've been planning to leave me after the baby comes. I know about the leaked medical records, about Catherine Caldwell, about all of it." The mask dropped. She could hear it in his voice. The shift from concerned husband to cornered predator. "Fine, you want the truth? Here it is." His tone turned cold, clinical, the voice he used in hostile negotiations. "Brindley understands me. She doesn't nag. She doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't trap me with a pregnancy I never wanted." The words hit like physical blows, each one precisely aimed. "You said you wanted a family," Colleen whispered. "You said you couldn't wait to be a father." "I said what you needed to hear. That's what marriage is. Saying what the other person needs to hear to keep them compliant." Compliant, like she was an employee, a subordinate, a problem to be managed. "And Catherine Caldwell," she asked, "was destroying her just business too?" Garrett laughed, actually laughed. "Catherine Caldwell was collateral damage. Her husband was in my way. I removed the obstacle. The fact that she couldn't handle a little public scrutiny isn't my fault." "She died, Garrett. She died and left a baby without a mother. And Weston Caldwell learned not to compete with me. Lesson taught, lesson learned." Colleen could not speak, could barely breathe. The man on the phone was a stranger, a monster wearing her husband's face. "Here's what's going to happen," Garrett continued. "You're going to calm down. You're going to remember that you signed a prenup. You're going to remember that I have lawyers who specialize in destroying people in court. And you're going to accept whatever terms I offer when this baby is born. And if I don't, then I'll do to you what I did to Catherine Caldwell. Only worse, because you're carrying my child. And courts love giving custody to wealthy, stable fathers instead of hysterical, vindictive mothers. The threat hung in the air. Clear, precise, devastating. Colleen opened her mouth to respond, and then the world ended. The sound came first, a roar like a freight train. The floor shuddered beneath her feet. Glass shattered somewhere nearby. She ran to the window, saw the white wave descending from the mountain. Massive, unstoppable, coming directly toward the east wing of the lodge. The avalanche hit before she could scream. The impact threw her backward. The window exploded inward. Cold rushed in, like a living thing. She was falling, tumbling. The phone flew from her hand, and then darkness and cold and silence, except for one sound, faint and tinny, coming from the phone somewhere in the wreckage. Garrett's voice, still talking, still threatening, still unaware. Colleen, what was that noise? Colleen, answer me. Colleen. But Colleen could not answer. Colleen was buried in the snow. Colleen was dying. The cold was absolute. Colleen had never experienced anything like it. Not cold like winter. Cold like death. Cold that seeped through skin and muscle and bone until nothing else existed. Darkness surrounded her, complete and total. She could not tell which way was up, could not tell if her eyes were open or closed, but she could feel the baby moving. Weak kicks at first, then stronger, more insistent. A tiny voice without words saying, fight, fight, fight. Colleen clawed upward, or what she hoped was upward. Snow filled her mouth. Ice scraped her fingers. Her lungs screamed for air. She broke through the surface, gasped. The breath tasted like survival, but she could not move. Her left leg was trapped. The snow had already begun hardening around her, becoming concrete, becoming a coffin. Help! Her voice was barely a whisper, weak from shock, weak from cold. Someone help me! The lodge was in chaos. She could see parts of it from where she lay. The east wing had collapsed entirely. Fire burned somewhere. Smoke rose against the white sky. People were screaming, running, searching through rubble. No one was coming for her. No one knew she was here. The cold crept deeper. She could feel herself slowing down, her thoughts becoming fuzzy, her body giving up. This is how I die, she thought, alone, abandoned, buried in snow while my husband threatens me over the phone. But the baby kicked again, harder this time, almost angry. No, not like this, not today. Colleen screamed, put everything she had into it, every ounce of strength, every bit of love for the child inside her. Help me, please, someone help. Nothing. The wind swallowed her voice, the snow absorbed her cries. She did not know how long she lay there, minutes, hours. Time lost all meaning. The cold was everything. The cold was the whole world. And then footsteps, a figure moving through the debris. Careful, purposeful, coming closer. Mrs. Ashford, she knew that voice, had heard it only hours ago in the dining room. Weston Caldwell's face appeared above her. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. His expensive coat was torn, but his eyes were focused, alert. Don't move, he said. I'm going to dig you out. My baby, I know, we're going to protect your baby. Breathe slowly, conserve heat. He dropped to his knees beside her, began digging with his bare hands. Methodical, efficient. The snow was like cement now. Each handful took effort. She watched his fingers turn red, then white, frostbite setting in. He did not stop. Why are you doing this? She asked. Her voice was fading, consciousness slipping away. Because it's the right thing to do. I know who your husband is. His hands kept moving, kept digging. That's not who you are. The irony was not lost on her. Even now, even dying. The man her husband hated most in the world was the one trying to save her. The man Garrett had called ruthless, unethical, dangerous. He was bleeding for her, sacrificing his fingers for her, risking his life for a stranger married to his worst enemy. Almost there, Weston said. Stay with me. Stay awake. She tried, she really tried, but the darkness was so inviting, so peaceful. The baby, she whispered. Promise me, if I don't know to make it, promise me you'll save the baby. You're both going to make it. I'm not leaving either of you. His hands found her trapped leg. He could feel the angle, the way the snow had compressed around her knee. One wrong move could cause more damage. This is gonna hurt, he said. I'm sorry. He pulled. The pain was blinding, white hot against the cold. She screamed, or tried to. Nothing came out but a kit, but she was free. Her leg was broken. She could feel it, could feel the wrongness of the angle. But she was free. Weston lifted her, carefully. His arms were steady despite the cold, despite his injuries. I've got you, he said, both of you. I've got you. He carried her through the wreckage, past the destroyed East Wing, past bodies she did not want to see, past survivors digging through rubble with bleeding hands. The lobby was still standing, barely. The fire in the great stone fireplace still burned. Survivors huddled around it, some crying, some silent, but all in shock. Ruth was there, organizing, directing. The kind woman from the front desk transformed into a general, commanding her troops. Over here, she called to Weston. Bring her to the fireplace. We need to get her warm. Blankets appeared, warm water, a first aid kit that seemed tragically inadequate. Someone checked Colleen's leg, confirmed what she already knew. Broken in 2 places. She needed a hospital, needed surgery, needed things this ruined lodge could not provide. Helicopter is on its way, Ruth said. 20 minutes. Medical evacuation for the critical patients. 20 minutes. An eternity when you were this cold. When your baby was stressed and your leg was shattered and your husband was somewhere in Aspen with his mistress. Weston sat beside her. His hands were wrapped in bandages now, white gauze already showing spots of red. How bad, she asked, looking at his fingers. Bad enough, but they'll heal. You could lose them, those fingers. Fingers can be replaced, lives can't. Colleen looked at him, really looked, saw the exhaustion beneath the calm, the grief that never fully left his eyes, the weight of everything he had lost. Your wife, she said, Catherine. His expression flickered, pain quickly controlled. You know about that. I read Garrett's emails. I know what he did, what he really did. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Weston was quiet for a long moment. The fire crackled beside them. Outside, the wind howled like something alive. Catherine was 7 months pregnant, he finally said. Just like you are now, she was excited, scared, overwhelmed. All the things pregnant women feel. What happened? Your husband happened. No bitterness in his voice, just facts. Cold, hard facts. He found out about her history, postpartum depression after our first pregnancy. Something we had dealt with privately, recovered from, moved past. He leaked it to the press. He did more than leak it. He framed it, made it seem like I was hiding a mentally unstable wife, implied she was a danger to herself and others. The headlines were brutal. Colleen closed her eyes. She could imagine, could see exactly how Garrett would orchestrate such a campaign. Surgical, devastating, deniable. Catherine saw everything, Weston continued. Every article, every comment, every person dissecting her private pain for entertainment. The stress triggered early labor. And she died. She died. Our daughter survived. But Catherine, oh, he stopped, swallowed. The doctors said it was complications, technical, medical complications. But I know what really killed her. Shame, fear, the feeling that her deepest secret had been stolen and used as a weapon. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. I'm so sorry. You didn't do this. I benefited from it. I was married to him while he did these things. I slept beside him, made a baby with him. Her hand found her belly. My daughter will share his DNA, will carry his name. Children are not their parents, Weston's voice was firm. My daughter is not defined by the tragedy of her birth. Your daughter will not be defined by her father's sins. The helicopter arrived 40 minutes later, not 20. The weather was worse than expected. Everything was worse than expected. Medical personnel flooded the lobby, triage, assessment, prioritization. Colleen was loaded onto a stretcher, IV in her arm, oxygen mask on her face, monitors attached to her belly to track the baby's heartbeat. Strong, steady, the baby was stable. The baby would survive. As they carried her toward the helicopter, she saw Weston one more time, standing in the doorway, his bandaged hands at his sides, his face unreadable. "Thank you," she called out, "for everything." He nodded, once. Simple. "Take care of your daughter," he said. "That's all the thanks I need." The helicopter lifted off. The lodge grew smaller beneath them. The mountain that had almost killed her became just another peak in a range of peaks. Colleen watched until she could not see it anymore, until the clouds swallowed everything. Then she closed her eyes and let herself rest. The fight was not over. It was barely beginning. But for now, in this moment, she was alive. Her baby was alive. And she knew with absolute certainty that she would never again be the woman who made excuses for Garrett Ashford. That woman had died in the avalanche. Someone new was being born. The hospital room was quiet, white walls, beeping monitors, the smell of antiseptic and industrial soap. Colleen lay in the bed, her broken leg elevated in a complicated system of straps and pulleys. Surgery had been successful. The bones were realigned. The healing would take months, but she would walk again. The baby was stable, stressed but stable. The doctors wanted to keep Colleen under observation for at least a week. Monitor the pregnancy, watch for complications. She had nothing but time. Time and memories. They came unbidden now, hidden. Flooding in like water through a broken dam, every moment of her marriage re-examined, reinterpreted, revealed. Their first date, a charity gala. Garrett had been charming, attentive, the kind of man who made you feel like the only person in the room. She remembered thinking, this is too good to be true. She had been right. It was too good to be true. She just hadn't known it yet. Their engagement, 6 months of whirlwind romance. He proposed on a yacht at sunset, $300,000 ring, photographers he had accidentally arranged. She remembered thinking, he's showing me off, like a trophy. She had ignored that thought, buried it under gratitude and excitement in the intoxicating feeling of being chosen. Their wedding, 400 guests, magazine coverage, a dress that cost more than her parents' house. She remembered thinking, I don't know half these people. This feels like his wedding, not ours. She had smiled anyway, posed for pictures, played the role of happy bride the first year, the second, the third, small moments of doubt accumulating like snow on a mountain, eventually enough to cause an avalanche. The late nights he couldn't explain, the phone calls he took in other rooms, the way he looked at her sometimes, like she was a project, a presentation, something to be managed. She had made excuses for all of it, work pressure, success stress, the burden of building an empire. Now she saw it clearly. Every excuse had been a lie, she told herself. Every justification had been a way to avoid the truth she was too afraid to face. I was so stupid, she thought. The signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Darcy entered. Finally, her flight had landed 3 hours ago. She had driven through the remnants of the storm to get here. Hey, Darcy said softly. How are you feeling? Broken in every possible way. Darcy sat in the chair beside the bed, did not speak, just reached out and took Colleen's hand. They stayed like that for a long time. Two women who had known each other since college. Finally honest, finally silent. I knew, Darcy finally said, not everything, but I knew something was wrong. I should have told you. Why didn't you? Tears filled Darcy's eyes. Because you were so happy, or you seemed happy, and I was afraid of being wrong, afraid of destroying your marriage over a suspicion. But you weren't wrong. No, I wasn't. Darcy squeezed her hand. I'm sorry. I should have been braver, should have trusted my instincts instead of protecting your illusions. Colleen thought about that, the protection of illusions. How many people had done the same thing? How many had seen signs and said nothing? His mother knows, she said. Judith. She has to know. The way she looks at me sometimes, like she's sorry for something she can't say. Probably. Women like Judith don't get to that age without learning to see through their sons. But she never warned me. Of course not. You're the incubator for her grandchild, the public face of her son's success. Warning you would threaten all of that. The bitterness in Darcy's voice was raw, real. The words of a friend who had watched from the sidelines, powerless to intervene. I used to wonder why you didn't like Garrett, Colleen said. I thought you were jealous, or intimidated, or just being difficult. I know. You never said anything bad about him, not directly. Would you have listened? Colleen considered the question honestly. Would she have listened? 3 years ago? 2 years ago? Even 1 year ago? No, she admitted. I probably wouldn't have. That's why I stayed quiet, because I knew you weren't ready to hear it. And I didn't want to lose our friendship over a man who would eventually reveal himself anyway. You were playing the long game. I was hoping you'd wake up before something like this happened. Darcy's voice cracked. I never imagined it would take an avalanche. God, Colleen, you almost died. You and the baby almost died because he left you alone in the middle of a snowstorm. He didn't just leave me alone. He left me alone so he could be with his mistress. On our anniversary, in the hotel room he originally booked for her. The words still hurt. Saying them out loud made them more real, more permanent. What are you going to do? Darcy asked. Destroy him. The answer came without hesitation. Surprised even Colleen, Darcy blinked. That's not what I expected you to say. I know I'm not the vindictive type. I've never been the vindictive type. But this isn't about revenge. What is it about? Colleen thought about Catherine Caldwell, a woman she had never met, a woman who died because Garrett needed to win, a woman whose daughter would grow up without a mother. She thought about Brinley Vance, a young woman probably being manipulated the same way Colleen had been manipulated, believing promises that would never be kept. She thought about the investors in Ashford Tech, the employees, the people whose livelihoods depended on a man who would sacrifice anyone for his ambitions. It's about the truth, she said finally. Everyone deserves to know who Garrett really is, not for revenge, for protection. So he can't hurt anyone else the way he's hurt us. Darcy was quiet for a moment, then she nodded. Okay, how do we start? We need a lawyer, a good one, someone who specializes in cases like this. I might know someone. Remember my cousin Margaret? She married a guy who works in white-collar crime prosecution. He might have recommendations. Colleen nodded. A plan was forming, small pieces connecting, a path forward through the darkness. There's something else, she said, something I haven't told you yet. She told Darcy about Garrett's last phone call, the threats, the promises to destroy her in court, the comparison to Catherine Caldwell. Darcy's face went pale. He said he'd do to you what he did to her? His exact words, only worse. That's not just a threat, that's an admission. I know, and I recorded it. Darcy stared at her. You recorded it? My phone has automatic call recording for important contacts. Garrett insisted I set it up years ago. Something about legal protection for business calls. A grim smile crossed Colleen's face. I don't think he ever imagined I'd use it against him. That recording could be everything. It could be, but it might not be admissible. Depends on the state, depends on the circumstances. Still, it proves what he's capable of, what he's willing to admit when he thinks no one is listening. The door opened again. A nurse this time, checking vitals, adjusting medications. The mundane routines of hospital life continuing despite the chaos of Colleen's world. After the nurse left, Darcy leaned in close. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Okay. Are you safe, right now, in this hospital? Are you safe? Colleen had not thought about that. The immediate physical danger. She had been so focused on the emotional devastation that she forgot about the practical threats. I don't know, she admitted. Garrett knows where I am. He has resources, connections. Can he get to you? He can get to anyone. Darcy pulled out her phone. I'm calling Marcus, my cousin's husband. We need legal protection. Today, now. It's 9:30 at night. White-collar crime prosecutors don't sleep. They're like vampires, except they feed on financial fraud instead of blood. Despite everything, Colleen laughed. A small sound, but real. The first genuine laugh she had managed in days. "I love you," she said. "Have I told you that lately?" "Not nearly often enough. Now be quiet and let me work." Darcy stepped into the hallway, phone to her ear. Through the glass door, Colleen could see her pacing, gesturing, building the foundation of whatever came next. Colleen lay back against her pillows, closed her eyes. The memories were still there. The good times now tainted. The warning signs now glaring. The life she thought she had now revealed as fiction. But alongside the grief, something else was growing. Anger. Not the hot, explosive anger that burns out quickly. Something colder, harder, more enduring. The anger of a woman who had been lied to, betrayed, left to die, threatened. The anger of a mother protecting her child. The anger that would burn for exactly as long as it needed to burn. No longer, no shorter. "I'm not the same woman who packed for that anniversary trip," she thought. "That woman is gone." Her hand found her belly. The baby kicked in response. "We're going to survive this," she promised silently. "Both of us. And when we're done, Garrett Ashford is going to learn what it means to underestimate a woman he thought he owned." 3 days after the avalanche, Garrett finally appeared. Colleen heard him before she saw him. His voice in the hallway, charming, concerned. The perfect performance of a worried husband rushing to his wife's side. "I've been trying to get here for days. The weather, the road closures, it's been a nightmare." She could hear him speaking to a nurse, probably touching her arm, probably making eye contact in that way he did, making everyone feel seen, important, special. He entered the room with flowers. Roses? Her favorite. Or what he believed was her favorite. She had never actually liked roses, had told him that years ago. He never listened. "Colleen, thank God." He moved toward her bed, arms open. The embrace of a loving husband reuniting with his injured wife. She held up her hand, palm out, a wall between them. "Don't." He stopped. The performance faltered, just for a moment, then recovered. "Honey, I know you're upset. You have every right to be upset. But can we please talk about this privately? There are cameras everywhere." She looked past him, noticed the news crew in the hallway. The Ridgecrest Lodge avalanche was still making headlines. 17 dead, dozens injured, and among the survivors, the pregnant wife of tech millionaire Garrett Ashford, rescued by his billionaire rival. The story had written itself. Social media was obsessed with it. "You're right," she said calmly. "There are cameras everywhere, so let's make sure they capture the truth." "Colleen, oh, you were in Aspen." Her voice carried, clear, steady. "With Brinley Vance at the Aspen Grand Hotel, room 417. The color drained from Garrett's face. "Honey, we should really discuss this in private." "Why, Grandma, you weren't private. You've been sleeping with your VP for 18 months. You told her you'd leave me after the baby came. You called our child a trap." She looked at the cameras beyond the door. The red lights were on, recording. "Should I keep going?" Garrett's mask cracked. For just a moment, she saw the man underneath, the cold, calculating predator who had threatened to destroy her. Then the mask slid back into place. "Whatever you think happened." "Don't think, I know. And so does everyone else. Your girlfriend has been talking." His expression shattered. "What?" "Apparently, when she realized you left her at the Aspen Grand to rush to your wife's bedside for the cameras, she felt used. Imagine that. A woman you manipulated feeling used by you." A nurse entered the room, then stopped, sensing the tension, the electricity in the air. "Mrs. Ashford, there's a Detective Marsh here. He has some questions about flight manifests, something about helicopter schedules." Colleen smiled, a real smile, the first one she had managed in days. "Please send him in." The detective was a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a rumpled suit. He entered the room, nodded at Garrett, and turned his attention to Colleen. "Mrs. Ashford, I'm following up on some inconsistencies. Your husband stated that the private helicopter service was unavailable due to weather conditions. However, our records show that helicopter took off 3 times on the day of the avalanche. None of those flights came to this hospital." Garrett jumped in. "There must be some mistake. The pilot told me—" "The pilot has already been interviewed, Mr. Ashford. He confirmed that you never requested a flight." The detective's eyes were flat, Unreadable. In fact, he said you specifically told him you wouldn't need the helicopter until the following week. Silence filled the room. Heavy, damning. Is there anything you'd like to clarify, Mr. Ashford? Garrett's jaw tightened. She could see him calculating, searching for an angle, a way to spin this. I'd like to speak with my lawyer before answering any more questions. That's certainly your right. The detective turned back to Colleen. Ma'am, there are some other matters I'd like to discuss. When you're feeling up to it, please have your attorney contact my office. He handed her a card. She took it. Notice the division listed, financial crimes. Not just abandonment, not just adultery, something bigger. After the detective left, Garrett moved toward her bed again. This time his expression was different. The charm was gone. The mask was off. You think you're being clever, he said quietly. You think you've won something. But you have no idea what you're dealing with. I know exactly what I'm dealing with. A liar, a cheater, a man who left his pregnant wife to die so he could be with his mistress. That's not what happened. It is what happened, and now everyone knows it. The cameras, the detective, the press. She leaned forward, ignored the pain in her leg. You spent years building your reputation, your image, your carefully constructed facade, and I just tore it down in 30 seconds. His voice dropped to a whisper. I will destroy you for this. You already tried. Remember the Avalanche? I survived. Remember your threats? I recorded them. For the first time, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. You recorded every word, including the part where you admitted what you did to Catherine Caldwell, where you promised to do the same to me. Garrett stepped back. His face had gone pale. His hands were shaking. That recording won't hold up in court. Maybe not, but it will hold up in the press, in the court of public opinion, in the minds of every investor, every partner, every employee who's ever trusted you. She smiled, the cold, hard smile of a woman with nothing left to lose. You taught me this, Garrett, how to destroy someone without laying a finger on them. I was paying attention. I was an excellent student. He left without another word. The flowers sat on the table, already wilting. The nurse returned a few minutes later, a different one this time, young, clearly shaken by what she had witnessed. Are you okay, Mrs. Ashford? I'm better than I've been in years. The nurse hesitated. Your husband seemed upset. He's not my husband anymore. He's just a man who used to sleep in my bed. That afternoon, the story exploded. Darcy had been busy, working with the lawyer Marcus had recommended, feeding information to carefully selected journalists, building a narrative that could not be ignored. By evening, Garrett Ashford was no longer just a man who left his pregnant wife at a ski lodge. He was a man under investigation for financial fraud, a man whose company was built on lies, a man whose mistress was now cooperating with authorities. Brinley Vance had flipped, completely, devastatingly. Apparently, being abandoned at the Aspen Grand while her lover rushed to his wife's side for the cameras had been the final straw. She had walked into a lawyer's office with a folder of documents, emails, financial records, evidence of securities fraud that went back years. Garrett's empire was crumbling, and Colleen had lit the match. Weston Caldwell visited that evening. His hands were still bandaged. 2 fingers had been amputated. The frostbite had been too severe. I heard what happened, he said, settling into the chair beside her bed. The confrontation, the detective. Word travels fast, especially when the cameras are rolling. He paused. That was brave, what you did. I don't feel brave, I feel angry. Those 2 things aren't mutually exclusive. She studied his face, the calm expression, the grief beneath it that never fully faded. I want to ask you something, she said, and I want you to answer honestly. Go ahead, Shaw. Why are you helping me? After everything Garrett did to you, to Catherine, why would you lift a finger for his wife? Weston was quiet for a long moment. The machines beeped around them. Outside the window, the sun was setting, orange and pink and gold. Because helping you isn't about him, he finally said. It's about you and your daughter. And the fact that people like Garrett shouldn't get to keep destroying lives without consequence. But you lost so much. your wife, your fingers, your piece of desire, and I'll never get any of that back by hurting you." His voice was soft but certain. Catherine wouldn't want that. She was the kindest person I ever knew. If she were here, she'd be sitting in this chair, holding your hand, telling you that survival is just the first step. What's the second step? Rebuilding, on your own terms, not for revenge, but for yourself. Colleen felt tears pricking her eyes, the first tears she had allowed herself since the avalanche. "I don't know how to do that," she admitted. "I've been Garrett's wife for so long. I don't know who I am without him." "Then you'll figure it out. Day by day, choice by choice." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a card. "My legal team is at your disposal. Whatever you need, whatever it takes to free yourself from him. I can't afford, you're not paying for it. Consider it a gift from someone who understands what you're going through." She took the card, held it like a lifeline. "Thank you." He stood to leave, paused at the door. "The baby," he said. "When is she due?" 8 weeks, give or take. "What are you going to name her?" Colleen had been thinking about this, the name she had chosen with Garrett, the name that now felt tainted, wrong. "I don't know anymore," she said. "I had a name picked out, but it doesn't feel right now." Weston nodded, understanding without needing explanation. "You'll find the right name," he said. "When the time comes, you'll know." He left. The room fell quiet again. Colleen looked at the card in her hand. Weston Caldwell, CEO, Caldwell Technologies, the man her husband had spent years trying to destroy, the man who had lost everything because of Garrett's ambition. He was giving her the tools to fight back, not for revenge, not for justice even, but because it was the right thing to do. Maybe that was the difference between them, between Weston and Garrett, between good men and monsters. Good men helped because it was right. Monsters helped because it was useful. She had married a monster, loved a monster, carried a monster's child. But her daughter would not be a monster. Colleen would make sure of that, whatever it took. However long it lasted, her daughter would know what it meant to be good, kind, brave, even if Colleen had to rebuild herself from scratch to teach her. The anger was still there, burning cold and steady, but now it had direction, purpose, not revenge, not destruction for its own sake. Justice, protection, the chance to build something new from the ashes of something ruined. That was worth fighting for. That was worth everything. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, media requests, and medical appointments. Colleen was discharged from the hospital after 10 days. Her leg was in a can. Her pregnancy was progressing normally despite the trauma. The baby, according to every test, was healthy, strong, resilient. Like her mother, the doctor said. Like her mother. She did not return to the house she had shared with Garrett, could not imagine stepping back into those rooms, sleeping in that bed, cooking in that kitchen where she had made him dinner 1,000 times without knowing who she was really feeding. Instead, she moved into Darcy's apartment, a 2-bedroom place in a comfortable neighborhood, small compared to the mansion, but safe, warm, real. The legal team Weston had connected her with was extraordinary. 3 attorneys, 2 investigators, a forensic accountant who had spent 20 years tracking hidden assets. They were expensive, the kind of expensive that would have been impossible without Weston's backing. But they were also effective. Within a week, they had uncovered the full scope of Garrett's fraud. The Sinclair deal had never existed. It was a fabrication, a story Garrett told investors to justify large cash infusions that he then funneled to shell companies he controlled. Ashford Tech was worth a fraction of its stated value. The patents were licensed, not owned. The revenue projections were fantasy. The entire company was a house of cards waiting for a strong win, and Garrett had been preparing for the collapse, moving assets, setting up offshore accounts, planning his escape. The pregnancy had been an inconvenience, a complication he never wanted. He had hoped Colleen would miscarry. When she didn't, he had started planning how to use the child as a shield. Custody battles, sympathy plays, leverage. Reading the investigators' reports made Colleen physically ill. Not with sadness anymore, with rage. She had been nothing to him, less than nothing, an asset to be managed, a problem to be solved, a means to an end. The confrontation with Brinley came unexpectedly. Colleen was at a coffee shop near Darcy's apartment. Public, neutral, safe. She was meeting with one of her lawyers when a woman approached her table. Mid-20s, beautiful in a polished, professional way. Nervous eyes, shaking hands. "Mrs. Ashford, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to talk to you." Colleen recognized her from the photos in Garrett's emails. The woman who had called him G. The woman he had promised a future with. Brinley Vance. Yes, Brinley's voice was barely above a whisper. "Can I sit down? Please, just for a minute." The lawyer started to protest. Colleen held up her hand. "It's okay, I'll be fine." Brinley sat, didn't order anything, just sat there with her hands clasped on the table like a child waiting to be scolded. "I know you hate me," Brinley began. "I deserve it. I did terrible things. I told myself stories to justify them. But there's no justification. I was wrong." Colleen said nothing, just watched, waited. "He told me you didn't understand him," Brinley continued, "that your marriage was basically over, that you were staying together for appearances until the baby came, that you knew about other women and didn't care. And you believed him." "I wanted to believe him. There's a difference," Brinley's voice cracked. "He was so convincing. Made me feel special, important, like I was the one he really loved. But then the avalanche happened, and I saw his face when the news came in, when they said you might die. What did you see? Calculation. That's the only word for it. He was calculating. How it would look, what it would mean for the company, whether he could use your death for sympathy. He wasn't scared for you. He was planning." Colleen felt the cold anger settle deeper into her bones, confirmation of what she already suspected. But still, hearing it, from the woman who had shared her husband's bed. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I cooperated with the investigators. I gave them everything, the emails, the financial records, the conversations he thought were private." "I know. My lawyers told me. There's more." Brinley reached into her purse, pulled out a folder. "Things I didn't give them, things I saved as insurance, things that will destroy him completely." Colleen looked at the folder, did not touch it. "What is it?" "Proof of what he did to Catherine Caldwell. The medical records he stole, the journalists he paid, the whole campaign documented from the inside." The room seemed to shrink. The noise of the coffee shop faded. "How do you have this?" "He gave it to me. Right after we started the affair. Said it was a lesson about what he was capable of, about what would happen if I ever betrayed him." Brinley's eyes filled with tears. "I was so stupid. I thought it meant he trusted me. Really, he was just showing me his teeth." Colleen reached for the folder. Her hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped days ago. She opened it, scanned the pages, saw emails, receipts, a paper trail connecting Garrett directly to Catherine's exposure. This was everything. More than enough for a criminal case. More than enough for civil liability. More than enough to destroy whatever remained of Garrett's life. "Why give this to me?" Colleen asked. "Why not just turn it over to the police?" "Because you're the one he hurt the most. You should decide what happens to it." Colleen looked at Brinley for a long moment, saw the guilt there, the regret, the desperate hope for some kind of absolution. "You're not doing this to help me," Colleen said. "You're doing this to help yourself, to feel less complicit, to tell yourself you made it right." Brinley flinched. "Maybe, probably. Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters." Colleen closed the folder. "But I'll take it anyway, because whatever your reasons, this is the right thing to do, and that matters too." She stood, gathered her things, looked down at the woman who had helped destroy her marriage. "I don't forgive you," Colleen said. "I may never forgive you, but I understand you. You were manipulated by the same man who manipulated me. We're both casualties of his ambition." Brinley nodded, tears streaming now. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "I know, so am I." Colleen left the coffee shop, the folder tucked under her arm, the final piece of the puzzle finally in place. That night she made a decision. She sat in Darcy's living room with the folder open on the coffee table. Her lawyers had reviewed everything, confirmed its authenticity, outlined her options. She could turn it over to the police, let the legal system handle it. Garrett would face criminal charges for what he did to Catherine, justice served through proper channels. Or she could go public, release everything to the press, let the court of public opinion deliver its verdict. Faster, louder, more satisfying. There was a third option too, one her lawyers hadn't suggested, but that had crossed her mind. She could use it as leverage, force Garrett to accept whatever divorce terms she demanded, walk away with enough money to never worry again, move on quietly, peacefully. Each option had advantages, disadvantages, consequences she could not fully predict. She thought about Catherine Caldwell, a woman she had never met, a woman who died because Garrett needed to win. What would Catherine want? She thought about Weston, the pain in his eyes that never fully faded, the fingers he had lost saving a stranger, the quiet dignity with which he had handled unimaginable loss. What would Weston want? She thought about her daughter, the life she was building inside her, the future that was still unwritten. What did she want? The answer came slowly, quietly, like sunrise after a long night. She wanted the truth, not revenge, not money, not leverage, just the truth, spoken clearly, heard widely, acknowledged finally. Garrett had spent his whole career building a lie, a beautiful, profitable, devastating lie. She would tear it down, not with anger, with honesty, the kind of honesty that Catherine Caldwell had been denied, the kind of honesty that Garrett's investors deserve, the kind of honesty that might, just might, prevent him from hurting anyone else. She picked up her phone, called her lead attorney. "I've made a decision," she said. "We're going public. Everything, all of it." A pause on the other end. "Then are you sure once this is out there, there's no taking it back?" "I'm sure. Schedule a press conference tomorrow." "Colleen, I've been afraid of this man for 5 years. I made excuses for him, covered for him, protected him from the consequences of his own actions. Not anymore. Tomorrow, everyone learns the truth." She hung up, set down the phone. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace. The fight was not over. The hardest parts were still ahead, but she was finally moving forward instead of just surviving. She was finally free. The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Colleen arrived at 1:15. Early, nervous, ready. The room was packed. Journalists from every major outlet. Cameras, microphones. The machinery of public attention focused directly on her. She had dressed carefully, professional, understated. No jewelry except her mother's pendant, a simple silver chain she had worn since the funeral 12 years ago. Her mother would have known what to do, would have found the right words, would have been brave without seeming angry, dignified without seeming cold. Colleen would try to channel that, try to be the woman her mother had raised. Even if her mother was not here to see it, the lawyers went first, laying out the facts, the fraud, the timeline, the evidence. Then it was her turn. She moved to the podium slowly. Her leg was still in a cast, crutches under each arm. She could feel the cameras tracking her movement, documenting her vulnerability. Good. Let them see. Let them understand what Garrett had done to her, what he had been willing to let happen. She adjusted the microphone, took a breath, began. 3 weeks ago, I was buried in an avalanche. My leg was broken. My baby's life was in danger. I was trapped in the snow, freezing to death, while my husband was 200 miles away with his mistress. No reaction from the crowd. They had heard this part already. It was the headlines, the scandal, the story that had made her famous. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm not here to talk about my husband's affair. Affairs happen every day. They're devastating, they're cruel, but they're personal, private, between the people involved. She paused. Let the silence build. I'm here to talk about something else. Something that affected more than just me. Something that destroyed a family, killed an innocent woman, left a daughter without her mother. The room shifted, a new tension, a new attention. 18 months ago, Catherine Caldwell died during childbirth. The official cause was complications. Medical, unavoidable. But the real cause was something else entirely. She told the story, all of it. The leaked medical records, the planted stories, the systematic campaign to humiliate a vulnerable woman into breakdown. My husband orchestrated this. He stole Catherine's private medical history and gave it to journalists who turned her pain into headlines. He watched as she crumbled, as the stress triggered early labor, as she died on a hospital table, holding her husband's hand. Colleen's voice cracked. She let it, did not try to hide the emotion. I have documentation, emails, payment records, a paper trail that connects Garrett Ashford directly to Catherine's exposure and death. This documentation has been provided to law enforcement and will be made available to the media. The questions exploded. All at once, a wall of voices demanding answers. She held up her hand, waited for silence. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a judge. I can't say what crimes were committed or what punishments should follow. That's for the legal system to decide. She looked directly into the cameras, imagining Garrett watching, imagining his face as his carefully constructed world collapsed. But I can say this. My husband is not the man he pretends to be. The charming entrepreneur, the visionary leader, the devoted family man. That person does not exist. Never has existed. He's a mask, a costume, a lie told so often it became real. Her voice dropped, softer now, more personal. I believed that lie for 5 years. I made excuses for behavior that should have been inexcusable. I ignored warning signs because the alternative was too painful to face. I was complicit in my own deception. That ends today. She stepped back from the podium. The lawyers moved in to handle questions. Her part was done. In the car afterward, she finally broke down. Not crying exactly, more like releasing, letting go of something she had carried for so long, she had forgotten it was there. Darcy sat beside her, holding her hand, saying nothing, just being present. I said too much, Colleen whispered, or not enough, I don't know which. You said exactly what needed to be said, nothing more, nothing less. Do you think anyone believed me? Look at your phone. Colleen looked. The notifications were overwhelming. Messages, texts, missed calls, social media mentions in the thousands. The top headline, Ashford wife exposes tech mogul's dark past, murder, fraud, and betrayal. Murder. They were calling it murder now. She had not used that word, but they had. It's done, Darcy said. Whatever happens next, it's done. Colleen leaned back against the seat, closed her eyes. Done. Finally done. Except it wasn't. Not really. The press conference was just the beginning. The investigation would take months, maybe years. The divorce would be brutal. The custody battle would be worse. But for now, in this moment, she had told the truth. Spoken it aloud. Made it real. Whatever came next, at least it would be built on honesty. That night, alone in Darcy's guest room, Colleen faced her darkest moment. The adrenaline had faded. The supporters had gone quiet. The reality of what she had done was settling in like winter cold. She had declared war on a man who had killed before, destroyed before, walked away without consequences before. What made her think this time would be different? The thoughts came in waves, each one darker than the last. He will fight back. He always fights back. He has more money, more connections, more experience at this game. You are 7 months pregnant, broken leg, no income, no home, no leverage. What have you done? What have you done? The baby kicked, hard, almost angry. Colleen looked down at her belly, placed both hands on the swell of her daughter. I know, she whispered. I know you're in there. I know you're depending on me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for the world you're being born into. The kicks continued, insistent, demanding. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I've never been strong. I've always been the one who goes along, who accommodates, who makes things easier for everyone else. She was crying now, really crying, the first time since the avalanche. But I don't know how to be anyone else. I don't know how to be the person you need me to be. The room was dark, silent, empty except for her and the life inside her. And then slowly something shifted. The fear did not disappear. The doubt did not vanish. But underneath them, Something else emerged. Determination. Quiet but certain. She had survived the avalanche, had survived the discovery, had survived the confrontation, had survived the press conference. Each time she thought she could not go on, she had gone on. Each time she thought she would break, she had bent but held. Maybe that was strength, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Maybe she had been strong all along, just didn't recognize it because it looked different than she expected. She wiped her eyes, took a deep breath. "I don't have all the answers," she said to her daughter. "I don't know how this ends, but I know I'm going to keep fighting. For you, for us, for the chance to build something better than what we're leaving behind." The kick softened, settled, almost as if her daughter was reassured. Colleen lay back against the pillows, let the exhaustion wash over her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new moments of doubt, but she would face them, one at a time, one foot in front of the other. That was all she could do, and somehow, for now, it was enough. The weeks that followed were strange, quiet in some ways, chaotic in others. The investigation moved forward. Garrett was arrested, released on bail, arrested again on new charges. The legal system ground slowly but inevitably towards something that looked like justice. Colleen watched from a distance, let her lawyers handle the details, focused on what she could control: her body, her baby, her recovery. Physical therapy 3 times a week. The cast came off. The leg was weak but healing. She learned to walk again, slowly at first, then with more confidence. The pregnancy progressed normally. Weekly checkups, ultrasounds. The doctor said the baby was healthy, strong, ready to enter the world whenever the world was ready for her. Colleen was not sure the world was ready, but she was working on it. She found a small house to rent, nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, a garden that needed work, a neighborhood where nobody recognized her face from the news. Darcy helped her move in, painted the nursery a soft yellow, assembled furniture from boxes with instructions in 3 languages. "I can't believe you're doing this," Darcy said, struggling with an Allen wrench. "Starting over, completely from scratch." "What else would I do? Go back to him?" Of course not. But some people would take the settlement, walk away with the money, disappear somewhere comfortable. He offered that. Through his lawyers, $7 million, never mention his name again, sign away my right to any future claims. $7 million is a lot of money. Blood money. Colleen adjusted a shelf bracket. Every dollar he has was stolen from someone. Investors, partners, Catherine's life. "I don't want any of it." "So what will you do? For income? For the future?" Colleen had thought about this. Long nights alone with her thoughts and her growing daughter. "I used to work in marketing. Before I met Garrett, before I became Mrs. Ashford. I was good at it. Maybe I still am." "You want to go back to work?" "Eventually, after the baby comes, after I figure out who I am again." She smiled. "Weston's company offered me a job, marketing director, good salary, good benefits." "Weston Caldwell, of course." Darcy raised an eyebrow. "That man has been suspiciously helpful throughout this whole disaster. He lost his wife because of Garrett. He understands what I'm going through." "Is that all he understands?" Colleen felt her cheeks warm. "It's not like that. He's just kind, genuine. The opposite of everything Garrett pretended to be." "I'm not judging. I'm just observing." Darcy grinned. "And what I observe is a man who gave you his legal team, lost 2 fingers saving your life, and offered you a job despite having 0 reason to help his enemy's wife. I'm not his enemy's wife anymore." "Exactly." They finished the nursery as the sun was setting. Yellow walls, white furniture, a mobile of stars and moons hanging over the crib. Colleen stood in the doorway, looked at the room she had created. For her daughter, for their future, for the life they would build together. It was small compared to what she'd had, but it was hers, really hers, not borrowed, not dependent, not contingent on anyone else's approval or generosity. That night, she sat on the porch and watched the stars emerge. The garden needed attention, overgrown, neglected. But underneath the weeds, she could see the bones of something beautiful. Roses, lavender, a trellis that might support climbing jasmine. Her mother had been a gardener. had taught Colleen the names of flowers before she taught her the alphabet, had said that gardens were like lives, messy, unpredictable, but capable of extraordinary beauty if you were willing to do the work. Colleen had forgotten that, forgotten a lot of things about her mother in the years since her death, but she was remembering now, pulling the pieces back together, the mother she had lost, the woman she wanted to become, the daughter she was about to meet, 3 generations, connected by love, separated by time, united by something that transcended both. "I wish you could see this, Mom," she whispered to the stars. "I wish you could meet her. Your granddaughter. She's going to be amazing. I can already tell." No answer. Of course, the dead do not speak. But sometimes if you listen carefully, you can still hear them. In the rustle of leaves, in the scent of flowers, in the memories that surface unexpectedly, bringing comfort when comfort is needed most. Colleen closed her eyes, let herself feel for just a moment like she was not alone. Her mother was there, somehow, somewhere, and her daughter was coming. Soon, very soon. 2 weeks later, her water broke. Darcy drove her to the hospital. 15 minutes of contractions that seemed to last forever. Nurses and doctors and monitors in the controlled chaos of birth. And then, at 3:47 in the morning, a cry. Small at first, then louder, demanding attention, demanding to be heard. Colleen held her daughter for the first time, felt the weight of her, the warmth, the impossible reality of a new person existing in the world. "Hello," she whispered. "I've been waiting to meet you." The baby opened her eyes, dark blue, almost purple. The eyes of a newborn who would see everything for the first time. "I'm your mother," Colleen said, "and I promise, I will never let anyone hurt you. I will protect you, love you, fight for you, always." The baby blinked, seemed to consider this promise, then closed her eyes and fell asleep. Darcy appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "She's beautiful," Darcy said. "What are you going to name her?" Colleen had thought about this for weeks, considered dozens of options, rejected each one. But now, holding her daughter, the answer was obvious. Had been obvious all along. "Grace," she said, "Grace Catherine." "Catherine? After Weston's wife. The woman Garrett killed. The woman who deserved to be here but isn't." Darcy nodded slowly, understanding. "Grace Catherine. It's perfect." Colleen looked down at her daughter, this tiny person who had survived an avalanche, survived her father's betrayal, survived everything the world had thrown at her before she was even born. "You're going to have a hard story to carry," Colleen told her. "Someday I'll have to explain who your father was, what he did, why I left him." Grace slept on, oblivious, peaceful. "But I'll also tell you about the people who helped us, who saved us, who proved that kindness still exists in a world full of cruelty." She thought of Weston, his steady hands, his quiet strength, his willingness to sacrifice for strangers. "And I'll tell you about your grandmother, about the garden she tended, about the love she gave me that I'm going to give to you." The baby stirred, stretched, made a sound that might have been a yawn. "Welcome to the world, Grace Catherine. It's messy, it's hard, it's beautiful. You're going to love it." 6 months later, spring arrived. The garden that Colleen had been nurturing through winter finally burst into bloom. Roses along the fence, lavender in the beds, the climbing jasmine on the trellis, exactly as she had imagined. Grace slept in a basket nearby. 6 months old now, growing faster than Colleen could track. Every day, something new. A smile, a laugh, a tiny hand reaching for things just beyond her grasp. The trial had concluded 3 weeks ago. Garrett was convicted on 12 counts of securities fraud, 6 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy. The Catherine Caldwell matter was still being investigated. Civil suits pending, criminal charges possible. The wheels of justice turning slowly but finally turning. Colleen had not attended the sentencing, did not need to see Garrett in handcuffs, did not need to watch him be led away. The news coverage had been enough. Garrett Ashford, tech visionary, millionaire, monster, sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. Assets frozen, empire dismantled. justice, or something like it. The divorce had been finalized the week before. Colleen had asked for nothing, wanted nothing, accepted nothing. Her name was her own again. Her life was her own again. Everything that came before was behind her now. You're going to ruin your knees kneeling like that. Colleen looked up. Weston stood at the garden gate. He had been stopping by regularly since the baby was born, never staying long, never presuming too much, just checking in, helping where he could. My knees are fine. I'm tougher than I look. I know. He walked over, knelt beside her in the dirt. Need some help? I need someone to hold these stakes while I tie the tomato plants, if you're offering. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that comes from knowing someone well enough not to need words. Grace woke, made a sound of complaint. Colleen went to her, lifted her from the basket, settled her on one hip. She's getting so big, Weston said. Every time I see her, she's changed. That's what babies do. They grow, constantly, relentlessly. Sometimes I swear I can actually watch it happening. Grace reached for Weston's face. He let her grab his finger, the one she could grab anyway. The hand with missing fingers did not seem to bother her at all. My daughter loves you, Weston said quietly. Charlotte, she talks about Grace all the time. Wants to know when she can come play. Anytime. You know you're both always welcome here. He nodded, but something in his expression suggested he wanted to say more, was working up to something. What is it? Colleen asked. I've been thinking about a lot of things, about the past year, about what we've both been through. And, he took a breath, and I know it's too soon. I know you're still healing. I know the last thing you need is complications. But I wanted to tell you anyway, just so you know. Colleen waited. Her heart beat faster than she wanted to admit. I care about you, Weston said. More than I expected to. More than I was prepared for. When I pulled you out of that snow, something changed. I can't explain it. But you're in my head now, you and Grace, all the time. She did not speak, could not speak. The words were too much and not enough all at once. I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I'm not expecting anything. I just wanted you to know. In case it matters. In case someday when you're ready, you might want to know. Grace squirmed in Colleen's arms, made a happy sound, and completely unaware of the significance of this moment. It matters, Colleen finally said. It matters more than you know. She looked at this man, this widower, this father, this stranger who had become something much more without either of them planning it. I'm not ready yet, she said. I'm still figuring out who I am, still learning to be alone before I can learn to be with someone else. I understand. But I might be ready someday, and when I am, she smiled, you'll be the first to know. He smiled back. The first real smile she had seen from him, free of grief, free of caution, just happiness, simple and unguarded. I can wait, he said. I've learned patience, among other things. They stood together in the garden, the sun warm on their faces, Grace babbling happily, the flowers blooming all around them. It was not an ending, not really, more like a beginning, the first page of a new chapter in a story that was still being written. Colleen looked at the life she had built, the house, the garden, her daughter, the possibility of something more waiting just beyond the horizon. A year ago, she had been Garrett Ashford's wife, trapped in a golden cage, slowly disappearing into the role she was expected to play. Now she was Colleen, just Colleen, mother of Grace, survivor of avalanches, destroyer of lies, builder of gardens. That was enough, more than enough. And if someday there was room for something more, well, someday would come when it came. For now, there was dirt to tend, flowers to grow, a daughter to raise. For now, there was life to live. 1 year after the avalanche. The morning sun spilled through the windows of Colleen's bedroom like honey, golden, warm, full of promise. She lay still for a moment, listening to the sounds of her house waking up, the creak of old floorboards settling, birds singing in the garden outside, the distant hum of a neighbor's lawnmower starting its weekend routine. Grace was still asleep in the next room. 14 months old now, walking, babbling, developing a personality that was entirely her own, stubborn like her mother, curious like her grandmother, and somehow miraculously untouched by the darkness of her father. Colleen rose slowly, stretched muscles that had grown strong again over the past year. Her legs still ached sometimes. The bones had healed, but the memory of cold remained. On winter nights, she could still feel the phantom grip of snow around her knee. She walked to the window, looked out at her garden. The roses were blooming, deep red and soft pink and pure white. Her mother's roses, transplanted from a nursery that specialized in heritage varieties. The same roses that had grown in her childhood backyard. The same roses her mother had taught her to prune and fertilize and love. "Good morning, Mom," Colleen whispered to the flowers. "I made it. Another day, another year." The kitchen smelled like coffee and possibility. She moved through her morning routine with the ease of practice. Kettle on, bread in the toaster, fresh strawberries from the garden, washed and sliced. Simple things, sacred things, the things she had forgotten to notice when she was busy being Garrett Ashford's wife. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a text from Darcy. "Ready for our adventure? Pick you up at 10. Wear comfortable shoes. Bring tissues." Colleen smiled. Darcy had been planning something for weeks. A surprise, she called it. An anniversary celebration. A chance to mark the day not with grief, but with gratitude. "You survived," Darcy had said when she proposed the trip. "That deserves acknowledgement. That deserves celebration." Colleen had agreed reluctantly. Part of her wanted to spend the day quietly, holding Grace, tending her garden, pretending the anniversary was just another Saturday. But Darcy was right. Survival deserved recognition, especially survival like hers. Grace woke at 8:30. Her cry was more of a demand than a complaint, a declaration that the day had officially begun and attention was required immediately. Colleen lifted her from the crib, felt the warm weight of her daughter against her chest, breathed in the smell of baby shampoo and sleep and something indefinably sweet. "Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well?" Grace responded with a stream of syllables that might have been words or might have been nonsense. It was hard to tell. She was at that age where everything sounded almost like language. "Mama," Grace said clearly, her favorite word, her first word, the word that still made Colleen's heart swell every single time. "Yes, B. Mama's here. Mama's always here." They had breakfast together on the porch, Grace in her high chair, systematically destroying a banana, Colleen with her coffee and toast, watching the morning unfold. The garden was alive with movement. Butterflies on the lavender, bees humming around the roses, a hummingbird at the feeder Weston had installed last month. Weston. His name moved through her mind like music. Familiar now, comfortable, but still capable of making her pulse quicken. He would be here soon, coming to pick up Grace for the weekend, their first overnight apart. Colleen was nervous about it, more nervous than she wanted to admit. But Grace adored Weston, lit up whenever he walked through the door, reached for him with eager arms, called him something that sounded like West, but might have been best. Charlotte, Weston's 3-year-old daughter, was equally enchanted with Grace, had declared them sisters within 5 minutes of their first meeting, had been inseparable ever since. Two little girls, growing up together, finding family in unexpected places. The doorbell rang at 9:15. Early. Weston was always early. Colleen opened the door and found him standing on her porch with a bouquet of wildflowers, purple and yellow and white, the kind of flowers that grew on mountain meadows, the kind of flowers that survived harsh conditions and bloomed anyway. "These are for you," he said, "for today. I know today might be hard." She took the flowers, buried her face in them for a moment, hiding the emotion that threatened to spill over. "Thank you. They're beautiful. Not as beautiful as you." She looked up, met his eyes, saw the warmth there, the patience, the quiet certainty that had drawn her to him from the beginning. "You're early." Charlotte couldn't wait. She's in the car, vibrating with excitement. "I think she has about 15 activities planned for Grace, including, and I quote, teaching her to be a princess." Colleen laughed. The sound surprised her, pure and unforced and real. "Grace is lucky to have her. Grace is lucky to have you." He paused, reached out, touched her cheek with gentle fingers. "Are you sure about this? The weekend trip? I can cancel." Stay here, whatever you need. I'm sure Darcy has been planning this for weeks, and I think I need to go back to the mountains to prove something to myself. Prove what? That they don't own me, the fear, the memories, the avalanche. She took a breath. I've been avoiding mountains for a year, driving extra miles to take the flatland routes, looking away when I see snow-capped peaks on television. It's time to stop running. Weston nodded slowly, understanding without needing explanation. He always understood. Then go, face it, conquer it. He smiled, and come back to us. We'll be waiting. Us. Such a small word, such a large meaning. Grace squealed with delight when she saw Weston, arms outstretched, demanding to be picked up. He obliged immediately, swinging her into the air in a way that made her shriek with joy. There's my girl, there's my favorite girl. Colleen watched them together. This man who had lost 2 fingers saving her life. This man who had given her his legal team, his resources, his unwavering support. This man who had waited patiently while she healed, asking nothing, offering everything. She had told him she wasn't ready. Months ago in the garden, when he had confessed his feelings, she had been honest, had needed time, had needed to find herself before she could find someone else. He had accepted that, had continued showing up, continued being present, continued proving, through action rather than words, that he meant what he said. I might come back early, she said quietly. Tomorrow instead of Sunday. His eyes met hers, hopeful, trying not to be too hopeful. We'll be here whenever you get back. I know, that's why I might come back early. She kissed Grace goodbye, 12 times at least, maybe 15, each kiss harder to give than the last. Mama will be back soon, baby. You be good for Weston and Charlotte and everyone. Grace patted her face with chubby hands, said something that might have been bye-bye or might have been baby. It didn't matter. The meaning was clear. I love you too. Darcy arrived at 10 exactly, her car packed with snacks and music and the energy of someone who had been planning an adventure for months. Ready? As I'll ever be. They drove for 3 hours, through valleys and over passes, past forests and fields and small towns that looked like postcards. The mountains grew larger as they approached, snow-capped even in spring, majestic and dangerous and impossibly beautiful. Colleen felt her chest tighten, the old fear rising, the memories surfacing. You okay? Darcy asked, noticing her grip on the door handle. I'm okay, just remembering. We can turn around. We don't have to do this. Yes, we do. I do. Colleen forced herself to breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth, the technique she had learned in therapy. The only way past is through. The lodge was different from the Ridgecrest, smaller, cozier, no tragic history hanging over it like a shadow, but the view was the same. Mountains in every direction, snow and rock and sky stretching to infinity. Colleen stood on the observation deck and let herself feel everything. The fear, the grief, the anger that had carried her through the darkest days, and underneath all of it, something else, something unexpected. Gratitude. She was alive. Grace was alive. They had survived the avalanche and the betrayal in the year of chaos that followed. More than survived. They had thrived. I brought champagne, Darcy said, appearing beside her, the good stuff. Not the cheap stuff we used to drink in college. We can afford the good stuff now. One of us can. One of us is dating a billionaire. I'm not dating him. Not yet. But you will be. Everyone can see it except the two of you. Darcy popped the cork, poured 2 glasses, handed one to Colleen. To survival, to strength, to starting over. They clinged glasses. The champagne was cold and crisp and perfect. A year ago I almost died, Colleen said. A year ago I was trapped in snow, convinced I would never see my daughter born. And now you're here, standing, breathing, raising an amazing child, building a beautiful life. It doesn't feel real sometimes, like I'm going to wake up and be back there, in the marriage, in the luz, in the cage I didn't even know I was in. Darcy was quiet for a moment. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out. Do you know what I remember most about that night? Darcy finally asked. When you called me from the hospital after the avalanche? What? Your voice, you sounded different. Not scared, is Carly, not angry exactly. Just clear. Like someone had wiped fog off a window and suddenly you could see everything. Colleen remembered that call. The shock still fresh, the pain still raw. But underneath it, the strange certainty that her old life was over. I think that's when it started, she said. The change. I didn't have words for it then, but I knew something was different. I knew I was never going back to who I was before. You're better now, stronger, more yourself. Am I? Sometimes I wonder who I would have been if I'd never met Garrett, if I'd chosen a different path, made different choices. You would have been someone else, maybe better, maybe worse, but not you. Darcy touched her arm. This you, this Colleen, this mother and survivor and warrior. She exists because of what happened, because of what you endured and overcame. I hate that he's part of my story, that he'll always be part of my story. He's part of it, but he's not the ending. He's not even the main character anymore. Darcy smiled. You are, you always were. You just didn't know it yet. They finished the champagne as the sun began to set. The mountains turned purple and gold and pink. The sky became a canvas of colors that no artist could replicate. Colleen took out her phone. 3 missed calls from Weston. She called him back. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. His voice was warm through the speaker. Grace just had dinner. Charlotte read her a story. Well, Charlotte made up a story using the pictures in a book. It involved a dragon who wanted to be a ballerina. Colleen laughed. That sounds about right for Charlotte. She's gifted in her own unique way. A pause. How are you? How's the mountain? The mountain is beautiful. I'm okay. Better than I expected. I'm glad. I was worried about you. I know. I can tell. She hesitated, decided to be brave. Weston? Yes? When I get back tomorrow, I want to talk about things, about us. Silence on the other end. Then softly, I'd like that. I'm not promising. I know, no promises, no pressure, just a conversation. She could hear him smiling through the phone. I've waited this long. I can wait for a conversation. Okay, good. I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Colleen. Sleep well. She hung up, stood there for a moment with the phone pressed against her chest. You're glowing, Darcy observed. Actually glowing, like a pregnant woman, except the baby is hope instead of a human. Shut up. Never. It's literally my job to mock you. Best friend privilege. They went inside as darkness fell. The lodge was warm and welcoming. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Other guests sat in comfortable chairs, reading or talking or simply existing in the peace of the mountains. Colleen found a quiet corner, pulled out the journal she had brought. She had started writing 6 months ago, recording her thoughts, her fears, her hopes, the process of becoming whoever she was becoming. She opened to a fresh page, wrote the date at the top. 1 year ago today, I was buried in an avalanche. I was pregnant, alone, abandoned by the man I thought I loved. I thought I was going to die. I didn't die. Instead, I was reborn. Not immediately, not easily, but gradually, piece by piece, day by day. The woman who was trapped in that snow is gone now. In her place is someone else. Someone stronger, someone braver, someone who knows her own worth. I am Colleen, mother of Grace, survivor of avalanches, builder of gardens. I am not defined by my marriage, not defined by my trauma, not defined by the man who tried to destroy me. I am defined by what I choose, by who I love, by the life I am building with my own hands. Tomorrow I am going home, to my daughter, to my garden, to the possibility of something new with someone kind. I don't know what the future holds. I don't need to know. What I know is this: I am free, finally, fully, completely free. And that is enough. That is everything. She closed the journal, sat quietly as the fire crackled, and the other guests murmured, and the world continued its patient rotation. Darcy appeared with 2 cups of hot chocolate. One more toast, for the road. We already toasted. We toasted with champagne. This is hot chocolate. Completely different category of toast. Colleen took the cup, let the warmth spread through her fingers. To new beginnings, Darcy said. To new beginnings. They drank. The chocolate was rich and sweet and perfect. You know, Darcy said, a year ago I thought I might lose you. Not just in the Avalanche, but after. I thought the divorce and the trial and all of it might break you. I thought it might too. But it didn't. You bent. You cracked. But you didn't break. Darcy's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I'm so proud of you. Have I told you that? I'm so incredibly proud of who you've become. Colleen felt her own tears rising. Did not fight them. I couldn't have done it without you, without Weston, without everyone who held me up when I couldn't stand on my own. That's what family does. Real family. The family you choose. They embraced. Two women who had known each other since college, who had weathered heartbreaks and disappointments, and now this, the biggest storm of all. I love you, Colleen whispered. I love you too. Now finish your hot chocolate. We have an early morning tomorrow. They went to their rooms at 10. Colleen lay in the unfamiliar bed, looking at the unfamiliar ceiling, feeling strangely at peace. The mountains outside were silent, watchful. The same mountains that had almost killed her. But she was no longer afraid of them, no longer running from them. She had faced the fear, had walked through it, had emerged on the other side. Tomorrow she would go home, to Grace, to the garden, to Weston and whatever they might become together. Tomorrow she would begin the next chapter, and the one after that, and all the chapters that would follow, because that was what survivors did. They kept going, they kept growing, they kept becoming, not despite the pain, because of it. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, and for the first time in a year, she did not dream of snow. The drive home felt shorter than the drive there, perhaps because she was eager, perhaps because the mountains no longer held power over her. Darcy dropped her at her house at noon. The garden was brilliant in the afternoon sun. The roses, the lavender, the jasmine climbing the trellis. Home. Really, truly home. Weston's car was in the driveway. He was early. Again. She found them in the backyard. Weston and Charlotte and Grace. A picnic blanket spread on the grass. Sandwiches and fruit and juice boxes scattered around. Grace saw her first. Let out a shriek of pure joy. Toddled toward her on unsteady legs. Mama! 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 Colleen scooped her up, held her tight, breathed in the smell of her daughter. I missed you, baby. I missed you so much. Mama home, Grace declared, patting her face. Mama home now. Yes, Mama's home now. Mama's always going to come home. Weston approached slowly, giving her space, giving her time. You're early, he said. I thought you weren't coming back until tonight. I couldn't wait. Couldn't wait for what? She looked at him. This man, this patient, kind, impossible man who had saved her life in so many ways. For the conversation, the one I mentioned on the phone. Charlotte was tugging at Weston's sleeve. Daddy, can I take Grace to see the butterflies, please? Stay where I can see you. The girls ran off together, hand in hand, sisters in all the ways that mattered. Colleen and Weston stood alone in the garden, the sun warm on their faces, the flowers blooming all around them. So, he said, the conversation. The conversation. She took a breath, reached for the courage she had found on the mountain. I've been thinking about what you said months ago about caring for me. I remember. I wasn't ready then. I'm not sure I'm completely ready now, but I'm closer, and I realized something up there on the mountain. What did you realize? That waiting until I'm perfectly ready means waiting forever. That healing isn't a destination, it's a process. And that some processes are easier when you don't have to do them alone. Weston stepped closer. Close enough to touch, but not touching. Respecting her boundaries even now. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, whatever this is between us. I want to see where it goes. She met his eyes. I can't promise I won't be difficult. I can't promise I won't have bad days and moments of doubt and times when I push you away. But I can promise I'll try. That's all I've ever wanted. He reached for her hand, slowly, gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't pull away. His fingers intertwined with hers. The hand with missing fingers. The hand that had bled for her in the snow. "I want to do this right," she said. "Slow. Careful. No rushing into anything. Slow is good. Careful is good." He smiled. "I've learned patience, remember?" "I remember." They stood together in the garden, watching their daughters chase butterflies in the afternoon light. The end of one story, the beginning of another. Colleen thought about her mother, about the garden she had tended, about the advice she had given years ago about not losing yourself in loving someone else. She had lost herself once, had disappeared into a marriage that was never what it seemed. Never again. She would never disappear again. But she could share herself, could open her heart to someone who deserved it, could build something new with someone who had proven himself worthy. That was the difference between losing yourself and sharing yourself. One diminished you, the other made you more. "Hey, Colleen?" "Yes?" "I love you. I just wanted to say it. No pressure, no expectations. Just, I love you." The words hung in the air, simple and enormous and true. She squeezed his hand, did not let go. "I know. I'm starting to love you too." And standing there in the garden she had planted, with her daughter laughing nearby and the man who might become her future holding her hand, Colleen finally understood. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden, but not anymore. Never again. She was free. Finally, fully, completely free. And freedom, she was learning, was not the absence of connection. It was the ability to choose, to say yes when you meant yes, to say no when you meant no, to build a life on your own terms with people who respected those terms. She had chosen this. The garden, the daughter, the possibility of love. She would keep choosing it every day, every moment, for as long as she lived. That was the meaning of the avalanche. Not the trauma, not the near death, but the rebirth that followed. She had been buried in snow, and she had emerged somehow as someone new, someone stronger, someone braver, someone capable of joy. The mountains watched from the horizon, distant now, no longer threatening. She had faced them, conquered them, made peace with them. And now, surrounded by flowers and love and the laughter of children, she was ready for whatever came next, always beginning, always becoming, always free. And so Colleen finally understood. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden, but not anymore. Never again. If this story touched your heart, if you felt her pain and celebrated her victory, I have a small favor to ask. Hit that like button. It takes 1 second but means the world to this channel. Drop a comment below. Tell me what moment hit you the hardest. I read every single one. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who might be making excuses for the wrong person right now. And if you are new here, subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week I bring you stories like this one. Stories of strength, stories of survival, stories of women who refuse to stay broken. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next one.